Good evening. I'm calling to order the meeting of the Pittsboro Board of Commissioners for Monday, the 13th day of November, 2023. As is our custom, if you will join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. And Commissioner Farrell, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Absolutely. Would everyone rise for the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
You have the agenda before you, and now is the time to make a motion to either approve the agenda as written or to modify it in some fashion. Is there a motion?
Yes, there is a motion to modify the agenda under the information for preliminary plat. Like that move number 11 and number 12. Like that move to old business number 1.
All right. You've heard the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Vose. Motion made by Mayor Pro-Tem Baldwin. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. And those two items will be moved over. Now is the time when we are going to have a resolution recognizing community feeding programs. And so Terry Transu, if you'll, and Linda will join me at the podium. People with you are members of the coalition of churches, and
Yes.
Would you do some kindness to introduce them?
Please give me this one more time. Are you ready? Say Farrell. Pittsburgh United Methodist. Morale, Pittsboro.
John Farnsworth with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Linda Cavallo, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
And I'm Terry Transu from St. Bart's.
And it's my pleasure to introduce this resolution honoring community feeding programs in the town of Pittsboro. Whereas a coalition of churches in the Pittsboro community have joined together to help people in our community with food insecurity. And whereas various churches and community members have been instrumental in 2 programs, the Alliance, which operates the Chatham Chuck Wagon, and the Pittsboro Community Lunch. And whereas Chatham Chuck Wagon has been operating since 2021 and consists of 5 local churches, including St. Bartholomew's Episcopal Church, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Pittsboro Presbyterian Church, Pittsboro United Methodist Church, and Chapel of the Presbyterian Church, which solicit food contributions, cook and freeze healthy meals for distribution each Tuesday at St. Bart's on Rectory Street in Pittsboro. And whereas the Pittsboro Community Lunch has existed for 16 years, even during the pandemic, the lunch has continuously served volunteer lunches to the community both inside St. Bart's Fellowship Hall and outside in the church driveway. And whereas the joining of these groups in service to the community could not have been possible without a magnanimous contribution of Pittsboro Church of the Latter-day of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints, which received funding for a walk-in freezer located on the property of St. Bart's Church for the storing of large food donations from a variety of food vendors and processors in the community. And whereas the members of these congregations, members of the business community, and members of those in need of food security have all benefited from the kindness, preparation, distribution of gifts, all in the goodness of the community spirit and need. Now, therefore, this resolution honors the programs and the partners and recognizes the important work, the contributions of time and caring, and upon motion by the board, this resolution will be placed upon the town records to honor the individuals and organizations that have made this possible. This, the 13th day of November, 2023. I'll recognize Commissioner Shipp for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Seconded by
Second.
James Vose, Commissioner James Vose. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous vote. And brains for each of the 5 churches participating in the program. And I cannot thank you enough for what it is you have done for this community. It's just amazing. There's so much more. It could have gone on for pages. I noticed today in the chat list, there was discussion of another feeding program, Feed Well, which is operating in Siler City and is a contribution from 2 residents of Pittsboro, Sarah Cooney and Susan White. And that is a very special program as well. So there's much to celebrate here in the community, and it was a dream come true to be able to do that this evening. So thank you very much.
Could we recognize just one other? And that is Mount Air Farms has been our greatest contributor. And that's actually, that contribution is actually heading towards $30,000 in value this year. So they're a tremendous supporter of everything. We really appreciate them.
That's wonderful. Thank you all so much. And we'll have signed copies of this for each of the churches. Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe that at the agenda, as the agenda goes forward here, manager updates is the next thing. John.
Yes, thank you. Homecoming event downtown is still this Saturday, November 18th. We'll have a preview and some early model we put together in that parking lot. The tree lighting is 3:30 to 6:30 on November 19th. That's Sunday. And the tree lighting should be about 6 p.m. And then Small Business Saturday is November 25th. So please come out and support small businesses. In the last meeting, Paul and I had a minor disagreement on tabling items. And then I learned in training on Thursday that Paul looked back, right? You can table items without naming the date at which you're going to bring it back. So it's good to admit when you're wrong in public. That's all I have.
This past week, I have attended a couple of events. The West End new restaurant opening where Angelina's used to be open. And I think Kyle and I are beginning to do sort of an interesting, we bring our giant pair of scissors to these food. And I think we discovered that probably one of the best things is to hand them to the owners of the property and let them cut. And I think everybody seems to enjoy doing that. And then on the 9th of November, I also attended a State of the Schools out at the new school building, which was a very interesting event, highlighting the idea that one of the things that we could do to our wonderful schools even better is to volunteer in a number of capacities. So, Mayor Pro-Tem Baldwin.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I only have one thing tonight, and that was the Central Pines Regional Council. We had that meeting the 4th Thursday the fourth Wednesday in October. And basically, there were bylaws which were changed because the name has now been changed to Central Pines Regional Council instead of Triangle J Council of Governments. So that required a change in the bylaws. So we did do that. And the next meeting will be on November 15th. And of course, it is open to the public. So that's all I have for today.
Thank you. Commissioner Bonitz?
And I have no team announcements.
Thank you. Commissioner Farrell?
Nothing other than as Jonathan mentioned, the PVA tree lighting is November 19th.
And Commissioner Shipp?
Thank you, Mayor. On Friday, October 27th, I was also able to attend the ribbon cutting for O'Gwen's Butcher Shop. So they've been open for a while and did the ribbon cutting and excellent food there for that ribbon cutting. Attended the Westing Kitchen one. And on November 11th was Veterans Day, did some things with the VFW, and then also attended a ribbon cutting in Chatham Forest for a little library there for a youth program there. So that was really neat. Our AHAC meeting, November 2nd, we did not have a quorum, so we had some discussion. And the next EDC meeting is November 15th, which is Wednesday, and I will attend that.
Thank you. Commissioner Vose?
On the 28th, I made it out to the Fall Festival and had a good time there. Then on Thursday, the 9th, I also was with you at the State of Our Schools Chatham One Chatham rather, presentation at the Central Services Building. And that was really good and informative, and I've offered to volunteer for something since then. So that's all I have. Congratulations to Commissioner Bonitz and Commissioner Farrell and to Mayor-elect and to Commissioner Foley.
Is Commissioner Foley with us? No? Okay.
That's what I have.
All right, well, we have a few people signed up for public comment. There are 3 people signed up for public comment tonight. As you know, there is a 3-minute time limit per speaker. And if you will come up and state your name and address, we'd be delighted to hear from you. The first person signed up is Connolly Walker. Okay.
Connolly Walker, she's the president of Pittsboro Rotary. I'm Kathy Russell. I'm the chair of the street fair. We are just here to thank the town, the staff, the police department, and everyone for the generous support of the street fair. Everyone helped us in any way possible. Amazing support from the staff, police department, in particular Sam Bradburn, and I just want to personally say that Tracy Thompson and the town. I hope y'all know you have her. She's amazing. She is just not any better. Connolly's going to say some more, but again, thank you all so much. Street fair was a great success.
Yes, it was. We extend our thanks and appreciation to the town of Pittsboro for your cooperation in our major fundraiser. It is a beloved annual tradition, and it's our pleasure to host the event. We've already extended our thanks to Teresa Thompson, as well as the Pittsboro Police Department, Officer Sam Bradburn, and also the town's Public Works Department. And we're very grateful to the town for you all being an in-kind sponsor of the event. We are pleased to share with you that the attendance of the event more than doubled from last year, and we estimate that approximately 3,000 to 5,000 people visited the Pittsboro Street Fair. With over 135 vendors, we believe they had a successful day, as well as a successful day for our downtown merchants and restaurants. That's exciting for us because we cannot have the street fair without their cooperation and support. We'd like to extend our thanks to 46 of our sponsors, almost all of which are local to Pittsboro and Chatham County. And a reminder that the proceeds raised from the event will support the many service projects of the Rotary Club of Pittsboro. We start this Wednesday afternoon by purchasing over 100 Thanksgiving turkeys and 2,000 pounds of Thanksgiving sides to the Core Food Pantry. And then in December, we will wrap over 900 books. So every elementary school student in Chatham County goes home with a book for the holidays. Our service projects are varied, but they focus on our local youth, local seniors, and the environment. It was definitely a wonderful day for our families, our community, and our businesses. We look forward to continued cooperation from the town of Pittsboro. Please mark your calendars for Saturday, October 26th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the last person signed up is Sarah.
Stefano.
Thank you.
Trust me, many people do not pronounce it correctly. Hi, I'm Sarah DiStefano. I am with Circle City Merchants, representing Circle City Merchants. I led the team that put on our second annual Treasure Quest, which was September 30th. So I'm just here to tell the town thank you. The town very much supported this. We even had a couple of teams, including Teresa and her family, which won the best costumes. But we just want to thank you. We started this last year in April. We had 10 teams. We had 15 stops. This year we had 20 teams. We had 28 stops. So those are merchants and restaurants and various businesses. And we even had 4 water stations where people could come and do challenges and gather points. So we also had all the breweries participated. We did provide, and with the town's help, we provided Chatham Transit on that day. So we were able to shuttle folks between Thirsty Skull, which was the furthest point west, to the downtown area and then out to the plant. So the plant got involved this year, the Thirsty Skull got involved this year, and we had a lot of participation. We anticipate next year that we will have hopefully 40 teams. But we just want to say thank you all. It's a great event that supports local businesses, and there were, I think, over 40 of those businesses of the 62 in Circle City Merchants provided swag for the teams and for the donation baskets or the gift baskets that were given out. And we had, I lost my train of thought. But anyway, it was a great success, and the town helped provide water. They helped provide some of the food. We did provide breakfast. Oh, Chatham Transit. They were able to shuttle folks, so it cut down on the traffic. People were able to park and leave their cars for the day. So we're looking for next year. We have a team meeting tomorrow night, and then we'll have a date for next year's Treasure Quest. But thank you all so much.
Thank you, Sarah. Next on the agenda are the 17 items, now 15 items on the consent agenda. As you know, we've removed 11 and 12 and made them as items numbered 1 and 2 under new business. Is there a motion on the remaining 15 items on the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Shipp.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Vose. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries unanimously. It is now time for the public hearing portion of our agenda. Oh, well, I thought we were going to do that as new business. Okay,
That's fine.
Okay. Either one. No, that's fine.
They would be new business 2 and 3.
1 and 2.
Did you have new business?
2 and 2. Okay. So the first public hearing is the Reeves Farm Conditional Zoning Request. I'll entertain a motion, go into public hearing.
So moved.
Moved by Mayor Pro-Tem Baldwin.
Seconded.
Seconded by Commissioner Vose. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries unanimously. So staff member Randy Cahoon Tingle is with us tonight to discuss the salient details of Reeves rezoning request. And before he speaks on this matter, allow me to please introduce Eric Sanchez, our senior planner, just recently come on board with us. Welcome, Eric Sanchez, a native of Belize. And so we welcome you and welcome knowing about your native country.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I look forward to working with both.
Thank you. Very good. So Randy, do you have staff recommendation for us?
Yes, ma'am. Very pleased to have my staff. The legislative request in front of you for Reeves Farm LLC is for a conditional zoning on the parcels in front of you, 6737, 6738. 724. They are currently residential agriculture and residential rural residential agriculture to a neighborhood mixed use center zoning for all permitted uses by right, and then some special use permit items within the neighborhood mixed use conditional zoning. There's a list of the uses that are in today's packet. Certainly, I want to point out to you the site is 500.126 acres. And actually, we're standing across the street from some of it. There's a little bit on this side of the road. This matter has been before the planning board on a couple of occasions. They have had a neighborhood meeting in May. 36 members of the public attended, and then on June 5th with 11 citizens attending. The planning board, as I say, took a look at this particular group of changes. We've had quite a few presentations about it, and I'm certainly going to yield the floor in a moment to, yes, I'm sorry, to Patrick. Yes, sir, Patrick. But let me definitely say that staff has looked over this particular proposal, is satisfied with the conditional rezoning itself, and I'm interested to take questions. I'm going to yield right now to Patrick.
Madam Mayor and Commissioners, I'm Patrick Bradshaw. I practice law at 128 Hillsborough Street in Pittsboro, and I'm pleased to be here this evening as part of the team presenting this proposed rezoning for Reeves Farm, Pittsboro to you this evening. As has been mentioned, the property is roughly 500 acres in the western portion of Pittsboro and mostly south of US 64 business, very near where we are right now. It is currently zoned RA residential agricultural and RA2 residential agricultural 2 acres. The property is designated on the town's land use plan for traditional neighborhood infill, mixed use activity center, and part of it is marked for natural resource conservation target. The proposed rezoning is consistent with the land use plan. Jody Lightoff, the lead planner for the project, will address the particulars of the plan in a moment, and we have addressed it in considerable detail in the written materials that have been presented to you. In order to allow the creation of a well-planned community that is consistent with the goals of the land use plan, we are requesting a legislative rezoning to a neighborhood mixed-use center conditional zoning district. The UDO says the purpose of the NMUC district is to provide areas for well-connected development that supports places to live, work, and recreate. It should be walkable and bikeable and include a mix of retail and office uses, eating and entertainment, and a mix of residential uses. That is exactly the kind of community that Mr. Lightoff will show you in a few minutes. This request has been fully and thoroughly vetted by the town planning board and the planning department staff. The applicant held 2 community meetings. The request was considered at 3 meetings of the planning board over a 4-month period. Mr. Lightoff and the planning director and the town manager have had multiple meetings to discuss the appropriate procedure, standards, and conditions for this application. And we appreciate the director and the manager for working with us on this. As a result of that work, there is a fulsome set of conditions to be attached to the conditional use rezoning or the conditional rezoning. And we presented those in a format that was requested by the planning director. In response to questions and suggestions that have been raised by residents of the community by this board, by the planning board, and the town staff, as well as enhancements that the applicant itself generated, the applicant has made several important improvements to the request, including the land uses that are permitted in each character district are specifically listed, with some identified as special uses that would require a special use permit from the town. We've identified a view shed corridor and open space to be preserved along West Street, totaling approximately 22.5 acres. The applicant has proposed a condition that it will provide 7.5% of the dwelling units in the community as affordable housing targeted at residents of various income levels. The applicant is also committed to providing a traffic impact analysis prior to site plan and subdivision approvals, and to voluntarily request annexation of portions of the property as site plan, subdivision, and special use permit approvals are requested. I would like to note that we are requesting that 2 of the staff's proposed conditions that were presented to you be removed. And I'll quickly run through those in our reasoning, and would be happy to engage in whatever conversation you all would like to have about them. A proposed condition 24 would require that all recreation space must be provided on site. The UDO expresses a preference that recreation space be provided on site, and it is likely that the recreation space in this project will be on site. However, the UDO also allows the alternatives of off-site recreation space or payment in lieu with the approval of the town, where it is determined that those options are better for meeting the recreation needs of the occupants and users of the project and for the town in general. There could be circumstances in which off-site space or payment in lieu would enhance the town's overall recreation facilities development. This might never be an issue for this project, but it makes more sense to us to preserve the UDO's options for both the town and the developer. Proposed condition 28 concerning a traffic impact analysis is a duplicate of a condition that's already included in section 5E. So I don't see a reason to include that twice. Proposed condition 29 would require relocation of existing overhead utility lines underground, except 3-phase or greater electric lines. The lines that are at the top of the poles along US 64 are 3-phase electric lines. So under the condition as proposed, poles and those lines would all remain. All that we would be burying would be a small electric line and a telephone line. Poles, as I said, the poles and the 3-phase lines would remain. This would be a significant cost to the owner, possibly into millions of dollars. We're not sure what the impact would be for connections across the road, including the utility connections that serve the building we're in right now. And it's unclear what, if any, benefit would derive from undertaking that effort, since, again, the poles and the lines would remain. I hope you can see from what we present to you and what's been submitted in writing that the applicant has made a substantial effort to respond to questions and suggestions that have been made by residents, by the town staff, and the planning board. And there will be significant ongoing opportunities for town review and input as development agreement and specific development plan approvals are sought. We would respectfully request that you approve the rezoning with the noted changes to the conditions. Madam Mayor, with your permission, I'd like to yield the floor to Mr. Lightoff to go over some of the particulars of the proposal.
Lightoff, you're coming.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Board of Commissioners. My name is Jody Lightoff. I live at 481 Bennett Mountain Trace. There we go. It's with a lot of excitement that we get to bring Reeves Farm to you. It's a unique property, and it's a unique position to be able to present in a building that's right across the street, and we can all turn around and look out the window and see. Thank you, Randy. One of the things that makes Reeves Farm unique in our thoughts is the location within the community, because there is so much fabric of kind of authentic Chatham County and town of Pittsboro facilities that are adjacent to this site and walkable. We are roughly 1 mile from downtown to our border. We share Hill Creek with neighbors. We've got the Agricultural and Conference Center. We have Central Carolina Community College. We've got the elementary school. We've got the past sheriff's offices, all within a walking distance, not to mention the existing retail along West Street. So we think there's a unique opportunity of how we integrate the fabric of community, leveraging the Reeves Farm landscape into the town. And so with that, the next slide, it's just kind of the guiding framework. Sorry, you're one. But again, all the kind of thoughts that we took in when we started to look at this project, we exhausted every document that was on the town shelves to kind of form our ideals of what community should be and what the response of community planning should be for Reeves Farm. I will note on the left is an interesting thing in all my research. The Reeves family has been just a terrific land seller. They've been engaged. They attended design charrettes with us. They provided oral histories. But as I was doing my research, I found this interesting quote in the 1970 Chatham, the first planning document for Chatham County that Tom Reeves was chairman of. And it really talked about the appropriateness of residential and then when in that time could come along. And it was really dependent on jobs. And I think, Chatham County's economic development program over the last year is really pushing the job growth, and there is a need for response in housing. So it's just, in our minds, that stewardship of transitioning from a dairy farm to actually a neighborhood for the town of Pittsboro is utterly important, and we kind of took Tom Reeves' lead on that. I will mention, we've reached out and met with a lot of individuals throughout this process. One that has been a wonderful resource is Leah Dyson. She is the housing and community developer for Chatham County. She reached out to us to start talking about affordable housing. I've met with her numerous times and have been engaged with her via email, via research. We've shared projects back and forth that we've seen across the country. She has been just a tremendous resource in helping us formulate our affordable housing program. And I envision continuing working with her as we get closer to the development agreement and really honing this program so it's beneficial to everybody. In meeting with the county manager, of course, they want to push growth to the municipalities where the services are. And we've met with the assistant county manager as well, plus with all the town staff. I mean, everybody's been wonderful in guiding this project and helping us formulate the master plan. For the plan, I want to go over just kind of our guiding design principles, really reflect the town of Pittsboro land use plan. I mean, that's key number one, extend the fabric of the town of Pittsboro. I think the proximity and location to the courthouse and the existing infrastructure. Our desire is that this neighborhood feel like a part of Pittsboro and that there is no signage saying this is separate. This is just another neighborhood for Pittsboro. Protect the environmental resources. Robertson Creek, we all know, is one of the major key environmental framework pieces for the town. And with the extensive frontage of Robertson Creek, we want to do our best to abide and keep that stream clean and healthy. Work within the neighborhood scale. I think just that's an examination of kind of the built fabric, stories, as we progress from downtown out towards Reeves Farm and to the Ag Center. Preservation of the West Street corridor, you're going to see how that came into being as part of our design shred and what was that key element that really came out of how we wanted to approach this community, building frontages. And again, the last three are probably the most important to us. Housing for all life stages. The land ownership, the Holmes family and the Kellers family have had 2 generations of building housing in the town of Pittsboro. They've built senior housing, assisted living, multifamily housing, duplexes, single family detached. Housing in Pittsboro is something that they carry with them. And I think that is a testament to how we've approached this project as well and dealing with the ideals of missing middle housing and affordable housing. And then gathering and connections, that last little piece was something that actually came from the Reeves family when we met with them, that Tom Reeves always wanted the Reeves Farm to be a place for gathering And that kind of testament led to kind of our thoughts too into community. Again, the Reeves Ideal Stewardship, they donated the 5 acres for the Boy Scout hut that's right across the street. They sold the land to Central Carolina Community College. I mean, what they did for the churches in the town, the Reeves family, we just want to keep extending that legacy and thought that the Reeves brought. The next sheet is really, it's just a quick look at the land and the topography. And what's kind of note is that the site gently rolls. And so, your perception of density and housing as you travel West Street will not be so abrasive because of the way the site rolls over and homes start to fit into the environment. But you can see the significance of Robertson Creek cutting through the site. You can see the 2 existing ponds and the 2 parcels on the north side. And then the next sheet. So if we went for a blanket rezoning, this is what our rezoning map would look like, right? This is the marigold color is what is, quote, the net developable. So everything out of the environmental constraints and out of the steep slopes, this is what you end up with. And we ended up with almost 360 plus acres of net developable land out of the 500. And so taking this and then thinking through the land use plan as we go to the next sheet, we wanted to start to break this kind of ideal of zoning down so that we could code this development for posterity and understand where density, where housing, where commercial uses are, and how we begin to build community. So going to the next slide. So again, land use plan with the 6 different categories: employment, mixed use activity center, traditional neighborhood infill, residential, rural conservation design, open space. So taking those 6 pieces and then begin to apply them. And the next exhibit really just talks about, these are kind of tried and true planning ideas. The Transact, new urbanism, Andres Duani, Elizabeth Players-Iberg, back, early 90s came up with this Transact diagram of kind of coding community as you move from rural zones into downtowns, and then looking at that kind of missing middle and how that kind of follows the same idea of this Transact design was important to us and gave us our baseline of how we thought through community. And the next slide begins to say, okay, in our response to the land use plan and how we would code it in neighborhood mixed use center district, we came up with character districts. And the darkest ones are where everything can occur, and the lighter ones are where the least amount of things can occur. So we're transitioning from kind of urban or mid-urban scale right at West Street and near the Ag Center, and letting that kind of transition in density where closer to the environmental framework. And so we've worked hard with town staff outlining what uses could go in each of these colors, if you will, and how our uses may support the initiatives of the town and the county, such as the Ag Center, and getting them a hotel. And so the next diagram, I hope this reads. This was an attempt, but I wanted to take the land use plan and then overlay our character districts so you could understand when you put a mixed use node, we had to kind of shift that a little bit due to our work with our traffic engineer, Earl Llewellyn's, who's here, but we really worked on intersection spacing based upon taking the datum line as the Ag Center as the entrance. So that established the intersections that could occur on West Street. And then we looked at where we could control both sides of the road and really create that vibrant mixed use kind of center to the project. And then how we would translate both building typology and building uses along the lake edge, and then transition density. So taking the 6 kind of categories of the land use and reclassifying them into our character districts, I think we've met the vision and intent of the land use plan. And I will say that in the next slide, we met early on with Larry Lee and the Ag Center and really wanted to understand their growth plans. And what our takeaway was, the Ag Center really wants to be the premier equestrian facility in the state of North Carolina. And, working with Larry Lee and her team, we understand that some of the constraints are hotels, usage and building upon that. In their master plan, they did show a hotel on our property, so we kind of took that seed of an ideal and built upon that. But the idea that this facility could really grow and be something really unique for the town, and then having the availability of, if there's a 4-day rodeo that comes to the Ag Center, there's things across the street that's walkable that they can come enjoy and eat and have hospitality. The next slide depicts, again, coding this development. We wanted to make sure that we protected the scenic view corridor of West Street. And this came out of our charrette. We did a lot of analysis of the grade change and the openness, where you could see in, where you could not see in. But one of the things that was a takeaway, and everybody that we've met with, is how they enjoy driving into town, seeing the pond and seeing the cows in the pond and on the pastures. And for both the Kellers and the Holmes family, protecting that scenic corridor was utterly important. And so we wanted to code that and put it into our document that we will preserve that 22.5 acres and have that as a scenic corridor. The next diagram is our conceptual illustrative master plan. And the orange line is the Greenway corridor. So we transitioned, the one Pittsboro master plan has it following Robertson Creek and coming down along the south edge. We wanted to bring the Greenway back up into the public view and have it participatory of West Street and then come down Hill Creek. And we think that's a better route there. You can see the beginnings of the, kind of mixed use node just west of the Ag Center. And then kind of the elements along the lake edge, the rectangle on the right side of the pond could be a hotel. We could do brewery or something, on the other edge of the pond. But, these transitions of both commercial and residential uses integrated along that edge. The next slide, and I'm coming to a close here. It's just a simple 5-minute walk diagram. Again, we are working in the neighborhood scale, 15 minutes to walk across this property, another 15, 20 minutes to the courthouse. So that just gives you a scale. And the idea of a 5-minute walk is something unique happens in the center of each of those. It's kind of the civitas, from the Leon Cryer studies. And then the next two are just kind of early renderings of how this community perform. And again, as you look at this, the hotel could be on the left-hand side overlooking the pond. So they have the sunset across the pond or hiding from the heat on a hot afternoon. But the brewery on the other end, and then transitioning to the multifamily on Robertson Creek. But this is an aerial. The road at the lower right-hand corner is the entrance to the Agriculture and Conference Center. So you can kind of see how that green space plays out, potential to really engage some open space and programming along that lake edge and make the whole lake edge public and enjoyable for all. And then just one more shot of kind of the entrance into the kind of core portion of our community with the multifamily on the right. There could have a variation of retail uses along the bottom, buildings to the left fronting the park. Again, could be a mixture of commercial and residential uses, could be affordable housing. All that could occur within this. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions by the board for Jody?
Could the payment in lieu money for the recreation, could that be used for a skate park?
Now, I'll just kind of going back just to the acreage numbers, just so we're all set on the same playing field. We have about 135 acres of the environmental framework that we're preserving, right? By the code, the common open space, we need approximately 71 acres. The recreation open space, we need 51 acres. We need about 124 acres total to meet our recreation based upon that target density of 1,700 units, right? Beyond that, that 22 acres, is included in that overall 124 that we'd be projecting. But, we we have the open space within it through the environmental framework. It's again, through the life of a project transition, this is a 10-year, 12-year build out, depending, the market's going to change, the needs of the town may change. We're asking for the flexibility in that condition.
Well, I wanted to say, I am very pleased with your commitment on affordable housing. And really, it's commendable. Given how deep that need is, it's very much appreciated. I wish we could do more. That's going to be a perpetual thing, especially given what we're learning about the difference between the town's AMI and that census tract.
I reached out to Leah today to confirm those numbers, and it was, the Durham Chapel, versus what the median in Chatham County. There's a disparity there.
And I think that's our issue. We need to address that in the UDO if we're going to do it at all.
Right.
The conversations that I've heard about supportive housing are also appreciated. And acknowledging that there is such a profound need. I'd like that to be additive.
Correct. I've been lucky enough to be involved in the tiny home village with UNC XDS. Incredible, right? And you listen to Tava speak and you listen to him talk about homes as healthcare and just the need for housing. It's a tremendous statement. And then Second Bloom, we'd be able to support that out, so the idea of supportive emergency housing. Talking with Leah, originally I was asking for a 2-to-1 credit. So if we did supportive housing, we'd get 2 affordable units, and she was like, well, Jody, supportive housing is affordable housing. So why are you getting 2 credits? So that was something that the town staff and I worked through. And we do believe in supportive housing. And I think when we talk about housing, we need to have all the language on the table there. I will say, just as a side note, ADUs, right? So we coded the ADUs. We use the definition within the UDO that they do not count as an extra density unit. And so that's within this proposal. But in talking with Leah again, ADUs could be a strong answer to a lot of affordability. And again, a lot of housing for all life stages. And so I think the promotion of that and not putting a burden on somebody that purchased a lot and has the ability to add that without question, it goes a long way. And there are, like Lee and I were talking about, there are management companies that actually manage groups of ADUs, right? So 30 homeowners could get together and hire a management company so they don't have to be the direct response. So again, Leah is an astounding resource. And Edward and I met with her and the assistant county manager, and we've just continued that dialogue.
Yeah, I really appreciated the way that you've embraced the ADU from our UDO. Sorry about all the acronyms, public, but auxiliary dwelling units are going to need to play a role, and not get too much into the weeds. But I appreciated that, Edward, that we were able to have that conversation about even something as simple as thinking about the space in the backyard for some of the single family homes being accessible from a street. Because then if there's street accessible space for an ADU, it can be rolled onto the lot rather than being stick built on the site, which is going to, I think, again, contribute to lowering the cost per square foot.
I didn't delve into the master plan greatly, but there's a lot of lanes and alleys. There's the new urbanist twist in there and trying to, and the kind of historic fabric. And, that's a trip of missing the whole, being about all this.
Yep. And that graphic was very helpful. And it's the first time I'd heard of transect concept. And the only thing I would say there is maybe delete or skip T2 and T3.
Well, you can calibrate,
go straight to the density.
They always talk about, that calibration of that transect based plan.
Yeah.
So, we're not going to be Midtown Manhattan, but, we are going to work on that scale. That transition to the natural environment is very important.
and sensitivity to the neighbors as well. Yeah, appreciate it. Again, I for one, Commissioner, am willing to yield on parking requirements. I think that we are so eager to get housing that maybe that's something that could be considered at the development agreement stage. And especially if the project is willing to consider having what's called EV ready status for multi-unit housing of some, I don't know, 10 to 20% of the parking spaces already having conduit provided, not the chargers, but just getting ready for that future.
No, I've been able to do part of Chatham Park and Mosaic at Chatham Park and did studies 3.5 years ago looking at the EV usage, the fire mark program. And, you know, it is a needed amenity. It's you have to have it now.
Yep. And it's not too far in the future, I think, where people of modest incomes will be able to obtain secondhand electric vehicles that still have appreciable battery range. And where are they going to charge? If they live in an apartment, they're going to be really needing that charging capacity. I really do love the density. And I would say make it more dense. And as I said, let's get the lower density transitions and go more to that missing middle, duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes, or condominiums. Adding more units on fewer acres is a good thing, because then we're conserving the landscape and appreciating that for what it is. I also want to thank you for the traffic impact analysis. We also spoke about this, that the very significant plan on both sides of West Street, with the hotel having a relationship to the conference center, a great need for pedestrian crossing or crossings. And I'm just so pleased to see the thought that you've put into the greenways in that regard. So
I will say, you know, we've already had the scoping meeting for the TIA. It's being developed. So, I mean, we are headed in the right direction with the TIA. And again, Early Whalen with Kimberly Horn is here in the audience.
Mm-hmm. And so that's a place where I could see maybe I recognize I'm about to blur some lines here, but the fee in lieu for recreation, I could see some potential there for assisting the county in making connections between CCCC and the conference center with Greenway. With publicly funded greenways, it's always a challenge to come up with the funds to actually accomplish these important pedestrian transportation facilities.
In regard to affordable housing, do you envision clusters or evenly spread out throughout the neighborhood?
The quick answer is yes to everything. And, you know, playing off my experience at XPS, tiny home village, just right outside of Chatham. You know, those kind of needed clustering because they need outlets, right? There's a different program in there providing supportive care with them. But, you know, I've in my 30+ years, we've done affordable housing where it's one unit in a townhome that you couldn't tell the difference. I mean, I do like the decentralization of affordable housing because, again, the uniqueness of where we are in the missing middle and all the kind of housing typologies we're talking about is you have that room for the butcher, the baker, and the atom splitter, right? And you create the fabric and good neighbors and good streets and good buildings. Nobody knows the wealth, you know, all of a sudden you're creating this kind of unique social engagement with that happens. And that's comes through the diversity of housing typology that occurs on the street.
Thank you. Decentralized. I like that.
Further questions for Jody?
I don't have any questions, but I do commend you on this. This looks like an excellent plan, and I look forward to it.
Thank you so much.
Couple questions on these. One of them is called Eagle Fleet Storage Hotel.
Right, so we struck that out today.
Okay.
Kobe does have the revised land use chart, but working with town staff today, we struck that vehicle and it was in the accessory use. I tried to code the primary and the accessory, so we struck out the fleet storage. The car wash is only an accessory use, so you can't build a standalone car wash. We can't build to this project, right? But again, back to the apartments and multifamily car wash are top of the amenity list. We need the ability to provide a car wash at the multifamily. So as an accessory use, we wanted to provide that.
Okay. And then what about any storage?
Mini storage is seen as a special use, and our position in that, one of the things that happens in master plan communities, and I work for a master plan community developer, we built 35 communities across the country, right? Nobody allows for storage, right? So you can never store your boat, your bike trailers, the things you collect, right? And so we wanted to preserve that as a potential amenity if it's a site very back in the community. If somebody's working or, needs storage for, and again, it goes back to affordable, accessible housing. If there's a contractor that needs to store his trailer, can he store it on site or can he not, right? And then that gets to the kind of sustainable question about how far are we making people drive each morning to go get their trailer to go to work. And so we're preserving that twist a little bit, but it's a special use permit that we would bring back in front of you. So the plan and site plans get developed.
Can we make that an accessory use to multifamily, for example?
I'd like to preserve the flexibility. Again, as site plans develop and needs develop, it may not come to fruition. I mean, the land may be too valuable. We may need to build more housing to support the affordable program, right? I mean, it is kind of not a high value land use, if you will, but we would just like to preserve that option just as kind of taking care of our residents on site.
Okay. I mean, I think mini storage is a great use for places like the county that doesn't have utilities. And not a great use for the town where we have worked hard to provide utilities.
I appreciate that fully.
So.
Yeah. Again, it's a special use that have to come back in front of you.
All right. And then I guess a question.
Yes, I'm ready for those, and I was actually going to make a suggestion, but let's hear the question first.
Well, I mean, I think the quick one is 5E and 28 are very similar, but slightly different. So
okay. Do you have one that you'd prefer to keep?
No.
I'd be all for, I'm sorry, I was going to point out that deleting 28 would probably be fine because 5E is pretty comprehensive. Did want to also suggest that for number 24, adding the language or as permitted by the UDO, which would obviously leave the door open for fee and lieu if they find that they do not want to do it on the site. That's number 24. Then under number 29, let me just say the original thinking there had to do with just preserving the idea that inside of the development, the utilities are undergrounded. Very obviously, 3-phase out front is a no-go. It's super expensive and it's pretty pointless.
I think it looks better.
It does look better. So that is something that I will leave to you all's discretion. I would certainly say that adding to number 24 and subtracting 28 out of the list would be my preference. If you add that particular little phrase, it actually gives you the option of doing it on site or treating it as the UDO does as an optional fee in lieu or percentage of it.
So 29 is not, it's not location utility line, so that's not talking about through the development. Okay.
Yep.
One question on that also, Randy, is that the line running from 64 up to the house? Is that the only line that
that would be my current belief.
Okay. That would be the only line that needs to be underground, correct?
But once you start developing inside the site, all the lines.
All right. Okay,
Yes, sir.
that's the line above ground now.
That's the immediate one, yes, sir. And it would be my assumption the house that's out there probably won't
Right.
survive the development. That would be my belief.
Further questions? Mr. Brett?
Mr. Bradshaw has something to say.
Well, not too much, but in terms of comparing 5E and 28, which I've done a number of times, I think if you're inclined to keep 5E, if you change the reference to final subdivision approvals to preliminary subdivision approvals, that would get the timing that the staff was requesting, and then they would be substantially identical. The wording it varies a little bit, but they would be substantially the same. And then Randy, as far as your proposal for 24, you're proposing to keep the existing language, but add
Or
as otherwise provided in the UDO?
Or as permitted.
Basically, the idea is the preference from I'm sorry, can everybody hear me?
The preference from the town standpoint is to keep your recreation on site. If you find that you can't, then obviously fee in lieu is an option. You don't want to take away the ability to use fee in lieu, but you also want a substantial amount to happen on the site. It would be my belief anytime you're, and I realize it's less than 500 acres, it's more like 300. The developable part, but I'm gonna certainly say somewhere in 300 acres, I'd like to think there's going to be recreation that happens inside on property owned by this development.
Yes.
As I said, the UDO expresses that as a preference, but it allows alternatives with the approval of the town. It's not the developer's unilateral decision. It's up to the town whether to allow off-site or fee in lieu.
Right.
Payment in lieu.
And all of that would happen at the subdivision stage and then beyond. Just rezoning tonight.
Right.
Sure. So I guess with modifying that condition, I mean, it doesn't sound like we're doing anything different than is in the UDO.
Right, except as it's currently written, it excludes the part that's in the UDO.
Sure.
But I would also say if you just strike it, then we're operating under the UDO.
Yeah. Okay.
Gonna arm wrestle?
Maybe on 29.
Okay. Just a suggestion.
28.
Redundancy is not
Redundancy is frequently a problem, especially when things are worded slightly differently.
Scratching this. Going to 5B.
Yes.
I'm not clear if we're end up on 29.
Yes, that. So essentially, you're indicating do not want number 24, no recreation is to be provided on site.
So what's this now?
Number 24 is the consensus that no recreation is to be provided on site.
No,
That's an option.
the recommendation from staff is that the preference is to have it on site.
On site, but
If you can't meet it, then yes, please do fee in lieu.
sounds good. Okay, thank you.
And with regard to condition 29, my understanding from the director is that the only line we're talking about is the line that runs from the road to the house. And that is acceptable to the applicant.
I thought you mentioned some other lines as well on there.
But we read this, we thought we were talking about the lines along 64, which are three-phase electrical lines at the top. But there are a couple of other lines hanging from those poles as well. So if we had to go bury those lines, that would be extremely expensive, but the poles and the three-phase lines would still be there. We're only talking about the line from the road to the house. That's perfectly fine.
Okay, good.
Good. Are we through with the questions? Are we satisfied with the questions and the answers? If so, I would ask if there's a motion. By the way, I'd like to state for the record that no one signed up from the public to speak this evening. Is there a motion to go out of public hearing for this particular issue?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mayor Pro-Tem Baldwin, seconded by Commissioner Bonitz. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Now, does the board wish to address action on this proposal?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the conditional rezoning for Reeves Farm project.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Farrell, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Baldwin.
Discussion?
Is there discussion further?
Commissioner Farrell, are you open to friendly amendments that make it clear which of the which of the items we're going to delete or strike out or modify? Is that
necessary?
Want to make sure that if staff are clear.
Staff is,
I guess with the conditions as modified tonight, with this meeting, hearing,
that would
is
work.
that what you're asking, recommend?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, please.
You want me to redo my motion then?
Okay. I think you have.
Make a motion to approve with the amendments
To the,
to the
amendments to the conditions we've discussed tonight.
amendments to the conditions that we've discussed tonight for the Reeves property.
I second that again.
You've heard the revised motion and second. Further discussion? Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next matter for public hearing is Turkey Creek conditional rezoning request, which has been continued from our meeting on September 11th. So let things shift here. All right. Is there a motion to go into public hearing on Turkey Creek? Moved by Commissioner Shipp, seconded by Commissioner Vose. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the motion carries unanimously to go into public hearing. Our staff recommendation and discussion again is with Randy Cahoon Tingle, and thank you, Randy. Let's go.
Okay, I'm excited. So as you all recall, we had a legislative request on Laurel Island on behalf of Jerry Medlin with Greenhawk Development and AF Bynum LLC. Conditional zoning parcels 6461, 6462, and 62851 from residential agriculture and heavy industrial M2 to residential 10,000 square foot, star 10 CZ, conditional residential MR CZ, highway commercial 2 CZ, and light industrial M1 CZ. Combined acreage is 140.74 acres. It's located at 569 Moncure Pittsboro Road. Right now, these parcels that are highlighted here on this map in front of you are the parcels in question. We've had a lot of meetings about this. We created a new bubble map, which you are going to find in your packet. It is going to show it's on that page right after the conditions. Okay, well, and this particular map, which is a great improvement on the previous map submitted, actually is a near exact match for the land use plan, which was my overall goal. We're going to find out if we can rotate it. Hoping for the best. It's like we're there. There we go. Okay. So as I said, in the updated proposal contains a bubble map rather than the previously submitted detailed subdivision layout, because I feel that that's a lot more appropriate considering where this particular subdivision actually is in terms of where they're going. The purpose of a conditional zoning is to determine approximate mixes and locations of the requested mix. Layout of the individual components on the plan of the site will be evaluated and recommended for approval during major subdivision and site plan approvals. So for industrial uses or for highway commercial, there'll be a site plan. And for the part that's mostly yellow, we're going to have an awful lot of subdivision maps there in front of you all. Again, with this particular conditional rezoning, there's a set of conditions that have been attached to your packet. Actually, I think they come before this particular slide. There's a lot of them. Very somewhat similar to our last conversation just minutes ago. Highlights here, of course, are that the petitioner has 2 years to get a zoning compliance permit filed within 2 years of the date of this particular project being available for sewer, which basically puts the date considerably in the future. I want to be real clear about that. They do have an awful lot of uses that they are asking for, except that in the M1 zoning district, they are disallowing kennel, indoor and out, correctional facility, airport facilities, railroad yard, freight terminal, fairgrounds, funeral home, crematorium, industrial, and so forth that are listed there. There's other list of further prohibited uses under C. And did want to be super clear that there are no plans to put a crematorium or a funeral home here. Use by right, within the C2 CZ district is a brewery. If you go down a little bit further on that same page. Otherwise, there's a few notations in here about the need for sewer to be available in order to launch this particular project, and it is expected to actually develop in a series of 2 phases. I believe the phasing map may be in the application. It's a big black and white at the absolute end of the application. It's essentially the hoping for the best. Basically, there you go. That last map, if you can tell that. So essentially what you have is you have phase 1, which is our mixed use district. And then the piece of land further down non-cure Pittsboro Road, which is the highway business and the industrial uses as a second phase. The feeling is with this particular project that we've discussed extensively with the developer who'll be taking the podium shortly, is that this particular first phase would be where they would be getting started. But again, I want to note that I appreciate their patience in all the work we had to do together. And this particular proposed rezoning is so amazingly close to the land use plan that was adopted this April. It's near when. And I'm very pleased with our collaborative efforts to get us to this particular point. It was a group effort. So at this point, I'd like to yield the floor to Neil.
Good evening, Mayor Perry, Mayor Pro-Tem Baldwin, members of the Board of Commissioners. My name is Neil Ghosh. I'm an attorney with the Morningstar Law Group at 700 West Main Street in Durham. I want to just take a moment to agree with Director Kuhn-Tingle and also to say thank you for his and the town manager, their guidance on this project throughout the process. So you all may remember this project from some time ago, and it was denied around the time you all were looking into your land use plan. And since then, obviously, the land use plan has been adopted, and we have come back with some revisions. I actually have, not on purpose, but in my notes, the old version of the plan here, which is actually quite useful, because with the new version of the plan, you can see how it has been changed and switched to match, as we've been guided more closely with the town's land use plan for this area. Ultimately, it's essentially the same number of residential units as was presented previously. However, there is, the residential portion of the project is denser because that's all been shifted over to the west-hand side. And then there is a far more non-residential and commercial opportunities, particularly on the east-hand side, which used to be a residential detached project there. There's a strong commitment, in my opinion, to affordable housing here with this project. And this project does implement what I would call, kind of the first stab at mixed use, right? So you've got a very walkable neighborhood on the west side where people who live there will be able to literally walk to non-residential uses. And then this project also has very strong commitments, in my opinion, to implementing the town's greenway system. And also to providing, multiple areas, multiple opportunities for new businesses to locate here and in different formats. So there are some opportunities here, I think, for some larger format, like life science type buildings. And then you've got also kind of opportunities for inline space, for, small businesses, essentially, particularly along Mount Zion Road. You could, if it's possible, bring up the conditions, or just make a note about two conditions, which we've had several conversations with staff about them. There's only two that I wanted to point out. I believe they were supposed to be taken out of the, or altered or taken out of the project based on conversations we've had, and I just want to point those out to you. They are conditions 4K and 4Q. So 4K requires all properties, it's right there at the top of the page, to be recombined into lot prior to site plan approval. So practically speaking, it's a little difficult. This project has 3 parcels associated with it. And one of them is on the east-hand side is totally non-contiguous with the rest of the project. So I think it's technically possible to make them into one lot, but I don't think that there's a need here, particularly because that east-hand side, it will be quite some time before we're able to develop that based on the availability of sewer. So we just wanted to strike that condition. I mean, we're going to be subdividing and recombining several times over to implement this project anyway. The other one is 4Q, which is at the bottom of the page there. What did you say? What was that other one? 4Q. It's at the bottom of the page on the screen right here. And that one requires interconnectivity with adjoining parcels that have frontage on Moncure Pittsboro Road. In general, I'm a proponent of connectivity, but for this project in particular, the parcels which we abut that also front Moncure Pittsboro Road include an active concrete plant, an energy substation, a historic home, and I believe Autonetics, I think is the name of the business, which is like a small scale manufacturing facility. I do not practically see why we would connect or allow connectivity to those uses. And again, this was a conversation that we have had with staff. I believe that was supposed to be stricken and maybe left in there by accident. But we certainly would like it stricken from the list just to make that clear. Our team is available to answer any questions you may have. We're looking forward to implementing this project as soon as possible. We think this is going to be a great kind of focal hangout place in the town of Pittsboro, create a nice, what I would call third place for people on their way home, or maybe if they live and work here, really great place to live and enjoy kind of the come up in Pittsboro. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Again, we would note that there were no speakers from the public signed up for this particular public hearing. Staff?
As to the 2 conditions that you requested, staff is fine with striking both.
Can I get a repeat on the second one? I got 4K. I didn't.
4Q.
4Q, okay. One that would require connection to the concrete plant and to Autonetics.
Yeah,
Autonetics, yes.
Substation.
And substation and historic home.
Staff is fully supportive of striking that.
So one.
And if further questions, yeah.
Yeah, one kind of technical question, somebody on staff is 4P says the sewer is allocated by the Board of Commissioners. Or when sewer is allocated by the Board of Commissioners, is that going to happen? Would it be city council or?
We are more clear on how that process is going to work than we were a couple months ago, but you should have that December meeting should have how you're going to allocate sewer in December. A policy of what that looks like.
I think it's with the sure we don't have to.
Well, I was going to say there is a compromise if you maybe want to try that one, which would be the Board of Commissioners or the utility providing the entity providing the utilities.
Okay.
Because obviously our policy could change radically and within a month or two.
Or you can just strike by the Board of Commissioners and at such time sewer is allocated.
There you go. Became better.
And then affordable housing, I know previously it was shown clustered. Can you, and there's nothing in there now about its location. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, previously it was shown clustered, and I think that that may still be a strategy that's implemented here. So this project overall is aiming at providing what I would call attainable housing to begin with at all, just for all the housing, right? And then for the affordable components, one strategy we looked at was essentially providing surface park units as opposed to townhome units, so similar units. Practically speaking, those may need to be clustered so that you're not having, garage, surface park, garage unit on a townhome. But we also are looking at the opportunity or ability to have them in line with the rest of the townhomes. I think both of those are possible here, but there's I think a surface park townhome unit would be more affordable than a garage park unit just from the build cost. And we also looked at providing those surface park ones on the, like as the in units. So they wouldn't be clustered, they'd be spread out. We looked at those.
If I could do some active listening here, you're wanting to hold open the option of clustering the attainable / affordable housing because of the considerations regarding parking and certain residential units having garage makes them more expensive. Did I get you right?
Right, because the garage is unheated, unfinished space that you're building and ultimately someone will be buying. And so surface parking allows you to deliver those units at a lower cost.
Seems like you could have some mixture of products that some has garages and some doesn't, so that there's some homogeneity in there, and it still gets to the effect. I think that
which is what I'm suggesting. Yeah,
it's good. Yeah. Okay, all right. Heterogeneity, excuse me, not homogeneity. I think just the point I would make is that this is something that repeatedly this board has been very concerned about is having that scattering of different price points going way back to the 2017-2018 Additional Elements Review Committee, which was established to review policies for the Chatham Park project. But this whole idea of having neighborhoods that are comprised of a wide variety of income levels is really important to this town, to all of my constituents, and to the prior mayor, the current mayor, I dare say, I think our future mayor. So I think you've heard us loud and clear, and really appreciate that. I also want to say that I really appreciate the effort that was made with staff to make the changes that have been made. I do think this is an improved project. Very eager to see the greater density of residential on fewer acres. I'm very eager to see the non-residential, the commercial. We really need both mixes of uses. So thank you. There are a couple of other things that I think I might mention. One thing I failed to thank the Reeves Farm team for was the provision or the acceptance of a concession declaring there would be no open burning for site clearing. Is that something your team could agree to? Great. All right. And
more affordable units for where you're at.
All right, yeah, but I appreciate it.
Like good opportunity.
We're feeling generous until then.
And this is something that we really should clean up in our UDO, and I apologize for that, but I'll ask the same thing that I asked before of that team is some concession, some address to the inevitability of electrified transportation, not just for people of greater means, like those who have garages. But doing what's called EV ready in mixed use developments is fairly low cost. If you're breaking ground and installing conduits, you put in the conduits for that eventual infrastructure, and it's presumed that there will be grant funds available for the charging infrastructure itself. Basically, all you're doing is you're adding in some conduit costs and maybe some extra space in the service area, in the breaker box, the service panel area for the electrical service. And I'll leave it up to your team in consultation with staff, figure out percentages. But I think it would be a very nice concession to agree to now that you will do some measure of that.
This is here.
Hey, I'm Jeremy Medlin with Greenhawk Corporation. We're the property owner. We are a proposed developer. So we can go ahead and make a commitment on the east and west, be some form of EV charging station, because typically we would already be there.
Very good. Thank you.
We can make that condition that there be some form of charging station on these.
Thank you.
But the market is.
Yeah, very good.
Any further questions?
Yeah, one question on the Greenway. I think the back ordinance will do it. It seems like it should also go up the west side of the east parcel. So we could have that, so the east, I think I go there.
It's the side of this parcel.
Yeah, this, having up where this.
By that utility.
Yeah.
It would go up that hill.
Yeah.
And that way it would be closer to
the SCM over.
Let me, hold on.
Okay.
So you see where the power line easement comes in? You got the SCM located right above.
Here we go. Here we go. Thank you. Whoops. Okay, I didn't break.
I knew it.
No, we'll find out in a second. Run over.
He'll get a new one as mayor anyway.
I was out of my budget. We're good. Yes, I'm sorry, right there.
And I guess my point here, or however we do it, is I want to make sure that we have the rest of that connection for a continuous greenway. That seems to be the shortest route there. So I just want to make sure that we can, we as the town can complete that greenway for a continuous connection.
Right, and I'm not sure about the overall town's greenway trail plan, but I assume that our western portion in that rail bed, I believe that segment is about 3,000 feet. And so, I just want to be mindful of, having some repetitive pedestrian movements. I mean, I'm anticipating that we're going to have sidewalk, inside the eastern portion of the property. We're already proposing 5,000 feet of greenway trail in aggregate for east and west. So don't want to be too redundant on pedestrian movements. Is that part of an overall plan, Randy?
No, my request was just, or my question to you just now was, what about an easement? What about simply setting aside an easement and dedicating it for that purpose? It doesn't get built, it just sits as a set aside.
Well, you see the point, right? Just be able to connect it side with the railway. So however we get there, if it's via sidewalks or greenway or something. So if you're gonna have sidewalks going up and over anyway, then we can just flag those, show them on the plan. Should be fine.
I would do that because my vision, and I don't know what your vision exactly is, but on Moncure Pittsboro Road with the greenway trails that I'm already showing, I just figured it would meander around Moncure Pittsboro Road to the north of the road. But I think the easy way to attack it is, when we do the site plan, identify those pedestrian movements and make sure that there's stuff
That's the primary thing, I mean, for you guys is to get your eastern portion connected to the railway trail that will go downtown. That's what we'll call the rail trail, I guess, former road. So, that's the primary thing. I'll make sure. I would say it has to be way there, but.
You know, and believe me, we want to make sure that our people that are working there can walk and benefit from the trail. So I think, you know, we're in sync on that.
Okay.
Any further questions? Any further response from staff?
I feel like, again, I'm impressed with this project. I'm very pleased with our progress and I'm excited about this evening.
Is there a motion to go out of public hearing for this particular Turkey Creek rezoning request?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Bonitz. Seconded by Commissioner Vose. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those, motion carries unanimously. Now that we are out of public hearing, does the board wish to address action on this proposal?
I'll move, where is staff recommendations? I want to get the language just right. So I'll move for approval of the map amendment as submitted, along with the acceptable deletions 4K and 4Q. And inclusion of the other items discussed.
You've heard the motion.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Farrell.
I need an amendment to that. We have to mark out by the Board of Commissioners on P.
Oh, yeah.
You can just say, yep, the deletion of K, Q, the correction on P, and then the two added as we discussed of 18 and 19. You can say, I make that motion.
I make that motion. That picked up in the audio?
I hope so.
Got it.
Okay. You've heard the motion to amend the proposal with acceptable deletions to 4K, 4Q, P 18 and 19. Is that correct?
Plus the two additions.
Yeah, the two additions.
Two additions. Okay. That motion was made by Commissioner Bonnet, seconded by Commissioner Farrell. Any further discussion? Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
That brings us to a public hearing for text amendments to the UDO. Let's let things shift here. So is there a motion to go into public hearing on the UDO amendments?
So moved.
Moved by Mayor Pro-Tem Baldwin.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Vose. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries unanimously. And staff will now tell us about what it is we're doing here.
Okay, so this is fun. This is actually a change to the tape. It's changed to two sections of the UDO. The first is the table, the principal use table, which is found in section 3.2.4. We're going to add some standards. What we currently have is at the top of the page, and it's a little disheartening if you're me and you're trying to interpret this. We have right now is we have private recreation and private entertainment facilities that are outdoors in all these districts being a special use permit. And Jan Nichols of VRC Limited came to us and said, gosh, I don't know that I think that recreation and entertainment are the same thing. Frequently, recreation is one thing and entertainment is another thing. You would not go to an amphitheater to do recreation unless you happen to be throwing people around into the mosh pit. But let's just assume that we want to keep these things separate. So the proposed change, have you ever tried to tell somebody something without saying it? I'm just going to go ahead and say it. The private recreation facility that is outdoors is a permitted use by right in our ETJ. ETJ, RA, RA2, RA5. Are we getting the theme here? It's just there. It's still a special use permit when you're in 15. It's not allowed at all in 12. It's a special use in, R12, I'm sorry, R12M, no, but R12, yes. R10 is still special use, R5. Y'all notice these lots are getting smaller and smaller. Then C2, which is kind of a highway business, sure, because it's currently allowed as a permitted use by right. CMUC, yeah, sure. And then the 2 industrial. But basically the idea here is if you are in an ETJ area and you want to do an outdoor privately owned facility for recreation purposes only, you would be allowed to do this as a use by right. If you go down to the standards, this was the really jarring part. Page 62 of the UDO under section E, item 1 only refers to adult entertainment as having any standards, which is a little odd because actually this lady did not come and talk to me about an adult thing at all. What she wanted to talk about was a private recreation facility that is outdoors. So the words on your screen that are in red, which it includes recreation facilities such as a practice court for basketball, tennis, softball, cricket, soccer, pickleball, or other sports for use by the owner and invited participants. Facilities shall not be used for a public event, for a game or competition, and facility use shall be limited to the owner and authorized participants. If you're not invited, you're not coming. This particular thing, we also didn't have any standards. I had some concerns. I had some very deeply held convictions. I didn't have any standards. It said that mobile toilets are not considered acceptable restroom facilities. If you've ever spent a while sitting, as I often did in my previous line of work, on a second story of an area that was a plaza and sat over a bunch of porta-johns that sat out there for 5 months, I think you can see my point. If you're going to have facilities, I want them to be something that is permanent. And of course, it would be subject to the UDO. And with us tonight is the lady who spoke to me about this first. And I think there's nobody better to talk to you about her proposal than Jan herself.
Good evening, excuse me, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. We really covered it all. As we were working on our special use permit, it became clear that clarification would be useful to the town, not just for us, but for others, and that these 2 uses should be separate. We worked with the planners on developing our request. And we believe that all of our request is congruent with your land use plan. There is an emphasis on recreation facilities. I've Baldwin that has more details, but not doing this could result in some existing facilities in the town to be considered to be non-conforming uses. So it helps people who have already put their basketball court in their backyard, right? Response. Do you have any
questions for Jan Nichols?
It's going to. Between cricket and soccer, are we missing a comma or?
It'd be a comma.
Okay.
We left it out.
And this is not an opinion that I have. I haven't had a chance to form this opinion, but I've recently been hearing in my neighborhood concerns about the noise associated specifically with pickleball. And apparently it's something about the pitch of the ball and the racket, and it's significantly more noisy than other racket sports. So I'll just leave it at that and ask for a response.
Well, I won't respond for her, but I'm going to respond for myself and just say that certainly if you're in an ETJ area, and certainly the site that was brought to my attention for us to give some consideration to was how many acres?
75 roughly.
Yeah, I would sincerely hope your pickleball game on 75 acres of land could be quite contained within there. I did want to point out to you all that within the consistency statement that I did prepare, I did mention that requirement for permanent restroom facilities provides reliable and potable water for parties using the site and for wound care related to practice activities and other sports injuries. I'm going to certainly say that in a private sport field, I did have a sport injury. I'm sure y'all find that quite entertaining. Can't imagine that happening to me, but it did. And I'm going to say if I didn't have a place to wash my burned up looking knee, it would be quite a long ride home. I would not like to go dip it in a porta john. I would like to have some potable water.
Makes sense. And then that's my final question for staff is facility use being limited to the private owner and authorized participants, these being private recreation facilities. Does that leave us open to subscription or fee paid access?
You actually have to be a member of the team in this particular case we were thinking of is if you're the owner of the team or you're at least the organizer of the team and you want to invite some people out to either try out for your sport or to get better at your sport. I can't say my cricket game is up to par. It could improve considerably, but I would like to think I could be an invited guest. Maybe not. Depends on how well you know me.
But I mean, I think conceptually for a text amendment is this does apply to any use.
Any, yes, sir.
Against specific use case.
I'm aware.
Be sending in all cases.
We'd still have to go through the whole approval process.
For the site plan.
Get a second.
But I did want to mention that literally our UDO under one recreation and entertainment, that stuff in black, that's all that's there right now. My first question to her was, is this an adult cricket practice field? Is this an adult softball field? I'm just asking.
Quick question, maybe if you don't mind, in terms of the other uses listed here. So what would regulate how close the houses or how close they are to other establishments?
Well, site plan and the way it's currently zoned would set up some of that.
Okay.
So one safeguard is, of course, out in those districts, the side setbacks in the rear are into the 50 plus. It's 200 feet at the front of some of those districts. So you're going to be a ways away from other people.
Is that the same for an RA? Residential agriculture?
RA, it's still 50 feet.
Okay.
50 and 25, 20. You're pretty far away. Yes, you don't have to have 75 acres. It just helps in the case of a very rowdy pickleball game.
Any further questions for staff or Jen Nichols? Pardon? No, nobody signed up for that. Therefore, we appear to be at the point of making a motion to go out of public hearing with respect to the UDO amendments.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Shipp, seconded by Commissioner Vose. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries unanimously. Now, does the board wish to address action on this proposed?
I move for acceptance of the proposed text amendments, including the single typographical addition.
Heard the motion by Commissioner Bonitz.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Farrell. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Excellent. I believe we're now at Bellemont Station, our fourth public hearing. We do have speakers for this particular one, but we need to go in first, public hearing. Is there a motion to go into public hearing on Bellemont Station revision request?
So moved.
Moved by Mayor Pro-Tem Baldwin. Seconded by Commissioner Vose. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries and we are in public hearing for Bellemont Station. Staff.
Yes, thank you so much.
Is going to present to us.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. This particular item, I do want to point out, is that it's a revision to an existing mixed use
development itself. This particular set of amendments, obviously, originally, original approval came in 2007. Obviously, the market changed and the applicant is requesting revisions. I do want to point out to you all that combination of factors, I had very little control and some a lot of control over, is that I was using the report that was in the portal online rather than an email that I had received as I was preparing this from home. So I do want to amend a little bit on the report itself. The current situation with this particular project, we're going to get to the maps in just a second. This is an overall map of the site, and I want to show you all the new map in just a second. I want to point out to you that the existing approval is for 405 dwelling units, which includes single-family apartments and townhomes, and the original density is 3.36 dwelling units per acre. The proposed is not what appeared in your packet. It is 806 dwelling units. That would be 235 single-family, 195 townhomes, 376 apartments, including the existing 76. And then there is a 5.21 dwelling units per acre. So this is approximately 50% more than was originally approved. You'll drop through down to a map that looks just like that. Yeah, if we can get that map to go. Yeah, oh, good gracious. Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, so what we have here. Actually, yeah, this is the illustrative, and it's that first map? I guess it just looks so different than mine. I'm pretty vivid on my paper. But anyway, so basically the huge changes, there's quite a few of them. I'm going to invite my friend up to speak on the changes, but essentially we've added some walking trails. We've rerouted some of the streets that were originally in the original proposal. There is a smallish commercial area, then there's sort of a transitional area. There are townhomes in that very, very large blue area. There are some public parks and some open spaces. There are quite a few walking trails. There is one privately. It's private, come on up. I'm assuming that the walking trail that's in the riparian buffer is going to remain private.
Correct. That'll be a natural trail.
I'm going to introduce my friend.
Good evening, board members, staff. Mark Ashton with the C Group, 367 Freedom Parkway and Mosaic Project in Chatham Park. So the documents that Randy's sharing with, we share that with the town in April. We've gone through a couple of back and forths with that density. A couple of items just to talk about in terms of density, as Randy just mentioned, 5.2 units to the acre. That is not very dense in the scheme of things. If you had a townhome project, you would have typically 6 to 7 units to the acre. If you had an apartment project, you would have, and this is a suburban apartment project similar to one in Powell Place, you would have 12 units to the acre. It'd be more dense, like the project that we did in Mosaic. That's more what I call an urban apartment type of feature. So although 5.2 units to the acre may seem daunting, in terms of reality, that is not a very dense project. And actually, most of the density in this project has occurred in association with the townhomes and the apartment growth. There's an existing 76 apartments out there now. And if you don't mind, can you bring the slides up, that PowerPoint that we prepared? And I realize there's been some disconnect with the town that you've had new staff coming in and out, but the data we shared and interesting tonight has been the data that's been provided to the town since April of this year. Okay, the next slide. So this is the PUD in 2006. A few of you were on this board in 2006 and approved the project as it was at that time. Ricky Spoon was the developer of the project. Pratt Chandex and his family purchased the project in 2017. Pratt, if you'll stand up. So Pratt and his family have multiple businesses in the Triangle. One of them is the Sienna Hotel in Chapel Hill. If you've ever been up there, you're familiar with that. So Chad and his family took on the project in 2017.
And essentially, they've asked us to bring the project up to current sort of market standards to look at making the project meet the typical demands that we see in other projects, both in Chatham County and in other growing urban and suburban areas. If you can go to the next slide. So this map just shows you what has been built today. Lowe's Drive has been extended from the existing commercial area near the Carolina Brewery, and there's 76 apartments that are really kind of in the center of the site. And the applicant for those apartments also signed this application for the proposed modification to the MUPD. Next slide, please. Now we get to the slide that Randy was showing previously. And so one of the things that we did is we more than doubled the open space on the project. And looking at the terrain and the site, there are some steep areas and deep ravines. Some of those are to the south of the site, heading towards Chatham Forest. And so we really basically tightened up the single family areas that you see kind of in the orange. And then the light green, we left those as really undeveloped areas. And in some instances, we're willing to convey those areas to the town. In your transportation, approved transportation program, you have a minor thoroughfare that would be a continuation of X Campbell Road on the other side of Hillsborough Street. We now have that minor thoroughfare continuing through the project and then extending further east onto property that the town owns. And we have taken a lot of the open space that sort of adjoins that edge and are willing to convey that open space to the town. So that will actually enlarge in the current parcel that you have there where our minor thoroughfare just ends at this point on the east side. We also eliminated some of the residential development to the south immediately adjacent to Chatham Forest. We still have a connection road, as you see there, but there was additional development planned further south. We turned all of that into open space for the project. So how can you take and create, doubling of your open space and increase your density? Well, really the only way to do that is to enhance or increase the apartment and townhome product. And increasing the apartment and townhome product helps the affordability factor of the project. And so that was one of the main interests in doing that. Next slide, please. So this is just an overlay to show you that comparison. You see originally the open space was just under 23 acres and now there's over 53 acres of open space on the project in the proposed MUPD. Next slide, please. And how do we conform with your land use plan? So the areas where we actually show our density and the apartments are in the northern section, which is where Lowe's Drive extends from the Carolina Brewery area. And you can see in your land use plan that is designated as traditional neighborhood and infill. And what it speaks to in your land use plan is that apartments and more dense development is suitable in those areas, provided that it's near a commercial area, which we have in this particular location. And then as you move out of that, and that's really a minor portion of the site, you can see it's maybe a third of the site. The rest of the site is listed as residential. And in the residential areas, it says that you're allowed to have single family, smaller single family, and even townhomes, provided that you have larger conservation areas. And I think that's exactly what we did, is we provided a lot more conservation space to the southern end of the project. And in those areas, we only have single family homes and townhome product in that location. Next slide, please. So in summary, increased density provides more affordability. Increased open space is provided. Steeper slopes will now be left undisturbed. Decreased commercial acreage, because mainly there's significant commercial development that has occurred since 2007, both adjacent to the property and along the 15501 corridor associated with Northwood and Mosaic. We're constructing a minor thoroughfare from Hillsborough through the property, which matches your comprehensive transportation plan. We're also going to be providing a 10-foot concrete multi-use path along that corridor. And we're also going to provide that same path along Lowe's Drive. So you'll have a 10-foot wide multi-use concrete surface that will run sort of east-west from Hillsborough, and then it'll run due north to the into the commercial area that exists today. We still have a stub street to Chatham Forest. Randy was kind enough to share some notes that he's going to speak to you in a few minutes about. And so we'll have a sidewalk connection from Chatham Forest that will bring you around that small curve to the point where the minor thoroughfare will be, and then there'll be a 10-foot concrete. And this will be important too, because we've heard some complaints from the existing apartment complex. People have been parking along the street there on the existing road, where we have the current road had a bike lane on it, but people are using that as a parking lane. So we're going to build that 10-foot concrete path outside the back of curb all the way along that section where the cars are currently parking to basically eliminate that conflict that's occurring out there today. And we're also going to be dedicating open space to the town. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Questions from our questions? I do have one question. Reference to the area between Chatham Park and Bellemont in the back in the woods. Now, at one time when that was initially developed, the people that live on 15501, they were experiencing a lot of flooding in that particular area. How is that going? How is that being taken care of?
That's a good question. So Randy's, I think, going to share a map with you momentarily, and he was kind enough again to share it with me prior to this. So if you look at this map, I think it says there's about 155 drainage acreage that comes down to a street that's closer to town, closer to Thompson Street. Our project is really, if you look at that map where you see the box that says DA 155 acres.
Yes.
Our project starts basically there. So all of that land that's kind of south of there is other people's property. You know, a lot of it's not developed at this time. And so what we have done already is we've taken development out of this area on that southern edge near Chatham Forest. We've eliminated development altogether. And we would be committed to the stormwater ponds that are coming and draining into that corridor to contain, you know, the 100-year event, control that event in that location. So we wouldn't have any issue doing that because we've actually reduced the amount of density in that area that the current approved plan has today, which is, you know, it's a little bit ironic because we're talking about a project that has a lot of undeveloped land, but there is an MUPD approval today that actually has more development in that area. So we'll actually reduce that and we'll ensure that that SEM can accommodate that.
Okay.
Now, thank you.
Because I did not want individuals to have their yards split again.
Sure. And so people, the people that ultimately develop south of this project, you know, they'll have to look at making sure they're doing the proper thing also.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions from our Cashmans?
I think overall, there's a lot of use, you know, I understand it's approved in 2006 originally. And since then, we've had a lot of changes. We have a UDO now, obviously. So as I was reviewing this, there's a lot of standards for parking, lighting, things like that, that are potentially duplicative of our UDO, or I didn't go through and compare how they compare to our current UDO. And so I guess to back up a little bit, I appreciate the changes and you working with us on this. And I think we're close. But I would like to see you use the UDO with minor changes, or at least show how the current standards, parking standards, lighting standards, things like that line up with the UDO. I think the easier way to accomplish that is to say we're going to use the UDO except with these changes. Or alternatively, you could go through your conditions and say this matches UDO, this matches UDO. You know.
Sure. I could appreciate that. I don't see a problem doing that.
Okay. And I'll just repeat from a previous one that I think mini storage is great out in the county where they don't have utilities, and not great in town. We do have utilities. So
you told me that before one time.
I think so. Still in here. So
it was a different parcel.
Same town. So also under transit, there's some things that talks about a fixed route, which we unfortunately do not have anymore. It talks about the transportation plan being updated in 2021. So just some things to clean up in the narrative too about what's the current state of things.
Sure. And we do have a transit stop in the project. We've designated that. And obviously I think that Lowe's Drive extension and then the future extension of X Campbell or whatever it ends up being called will provide a pretty nice loop, through the project, should that come available. Yeah.
Yeah. I echo Mr. Shipp's comments, like the lighting really started being intense. Mr. Ashton, I appreciate all the attention you put into it, and especially noted there seems to be a little bit more to address the quality of light in terms of Bellemont, and something about time delay or time, but not quite getting at controllable or adaptive. So you can take another look at that. And if our UDO is lacking in that regard, I'm eager to hear how it can be improved. But this is just so much of an opportunity here for additional energy savings and additional reduction of impact on the environment, on critters that live amongst us and humans at night, protection of dark sky, et cetera. So adaptive lighting and controllable lighting is very much of interest here. I'd feel remiss if I didn't also request the same thing that I requested of two other applicants tonight. That is some attention to parking that is electrified, or leaving open that opportunity in future, particularly the EV ready concept. And again, what municipalities are often doing now is asking for 10 to 20% of parking spaces to be EV ready. And that again does not require installation of the equipment. It's just, you're already laying conduit, you're already digging trenches, you lay some conduit out there to get ready for that opportunity, especially for affordable housing. And yeah, so that brings me to another opportunity. I recognize that this project envelops and surrounds, and by one count, 154 acres includes the Bellemont apartments, which are affordable. And yet we also need more. And so I'd really like to see the next time this comes back, what specifically y'all can do to help with the crisis of affordable housing in our community. Now that brings me to the density. I think you're absolutely right that does get at stability. And I'm not scared away by the density. I really like what this plan concept has done in terms of the map, moving away from those steep slopes, increasing the density. I think that the Reeves Farm project is commendable, especially for your attention, the developer's attention, with regard to what was referred to as the missing middle housing. I see in here the detached housing. I see the single family housing, and I see the higher density townhomes, but I don't see that in the middle. And the opportunity that I think is really lacking in the market today is that opportunity to buy a duplex house and I rent out the other side of it, or I buy a triplex or build a triplex or a quadplex. And that's going to create an altogether different type of affordability. I'm also curious about the height restriction in the commercial. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, we can simulate the maximum what you have in your commercial category now. That thing's 50 feet, so we can clarify that.
And that may be another place that maybe even needs to be reconsidered. Because I'm looking at that 55-foot height requirement for commercial, and I'm thinking, well, why? Why aren't we allowing ourselves to go higher? We've got a ladder truck now. The hotel at Mosaic, I'm sure, is higher than 55 feet. Let's talk about this. Let's think about this. And if the developer is inclined, go even taller. My next comment may seem superficial, maybe even getting down into the weeds too much. But as I think about the plan that has been laid out and the map, and as I think about myself, would I want to buy a house on Lowe's Drive Extension? Can we think about renaming that road?
Certainly can. I mean, I'm sure the commercial users out there may not want to see a change, but we'd certainly be willing to raise that flag, see what the thoughts are, folks.
Well, there's commercial, and then there's going to be more residential down that same road, and especially if it's apartment complexes. I'm not proposing to change the addresses at the apartment complex, but at the end of that property line, anything further to the east. I think it'd be really lovely if the developer and the property owners could think about something more representative of our town, our culture, our history, than a corporate name extension. And thank you for hearing me on that. And then finally, if you would hopefully agree on no open burning of land clearing debris. I recognize that most of the debris was cleared a few years ago, but there's significant small tree growth that's taken place since then. And I imagine there will be some site clearing and debris as a result. And if you could commit to not burning that, that'd be great.
I'll be glad to discuss that with our client.
Thank you. Now, I also have received late these comments from the Chatham Forest Homeowners Association, which is an adjacent collection of properties. I do happen to live there. And because I received this late, I'm simply going to ask that this be referred to staff and staff attend to these comments.
I will tell you, we've addressed all of them other than item one is just a historical acknowledgement that there were some problems with erosion control out there. So that's, and our client is not the prior client. And then the item 5, Randy had asked about the idea of us being able to move the road that we're talking about, the minor thoroughfare, somehow run that over into Chatham Forest and then back out. I mean, we're happy to look at that, but I do think that it'll be difficult to do that, to make that kind of adjustment in the both vertical grade and the type of street that we're proposing, and putting in a 10-foot sidewalk.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
We're happy to get it.
So I also received a comment that I'm sorry, can't elaborate on it at all, but I understand that there may be an historic chimney and foundation of a farmstead, perhaps on the southern edge, close to
at the neighborhood meeting, and I went out there. I couldn't find. I don't know if it. That's a fairly thin section of property right there. I'm not sure if maybe that piece is further to the north. There's obviously undeveloped land just north of that. We have a pretty small sliver that runs out there.
Okay. Well, I'll ask
you to someone can document
his GPS coordinates.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, I'll try and pass that along to you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. At this time, we'll hear from the two people who have signed up for this public hearing. First, Randy Voller. On behalf of the Homeowners Association of Chatham Forest.
Mayor, I lived long enough to be able to see stuff come all the way around.
I remember when I was sitting in your chair and the station was approved the first time. So I just want to go on the record. I'm here, and so is Candace as our president with the Chatham Forest HOA, not as an individual citizen, just to reflect some comments from the community. Number one, we have the utmost confidence in Mark Ashness and the CE Group and Pratik Chandak, the owner, to do a great job and bring this forward. It's been 17 years since a number of our owners first became aware of the original project. They're more than happy to see Lowe's and other commercial built. There's been a kind of a wondering when it would eventually finish. So it's nice to see a plan coming forward to people to know that eventually a road will connect and you could walk, John, to Lowe's. The comments that we put forward, which I gave to Mark before the meeting, just basically reflect a few things that the board discussed. One, I think Pam might be the only member of the board that remembers that erosion control problem, but you were alluding to that issue where the town board actually had to take action and work with DEQ. That's not really an issue now because the county handles that, but we just wanted you to be aware that we don't want that to happen again. Number two, the area that I think they're showing, it's the town of Pittsboro's land, used to be the town dump way back when. I don't know whether a road can or cannot go over it, but I'm sure that Mark could figure that out with staff. The blue line stream that begins on Bellemont Station and provided a map showing the drainage basin, that comes down and crosses Snipes property and then Chatham Forest. We just want the town to be aware that as development happens in this area, there needs to be care for downstream users because extreme rain events now do affect some of the folks downstream when we have a 100-year or 500-year rain event. And we want to take that into account. And I don't think that the crossing, that the 24-inch reinforced concrete at Snipes driveway is big enough. Our HOA has been trying to work with that to ameliorate the problem, but certainly this development will probably create more drainage. And Mark is correct. A number of these parcels are outside of their project. We are happy and like it to connect to Chatham Forest. We think that would be great for walking, for biking, for a quick car drive. As I pointed out, and Mark is correct, I'm not sure whether you can create just one road coming through Bellemont Drive or Belmont Ridge Road. We're only suggesting it because some of those owners and the town are going to have lots that have a road on the front and the back. So we just said, hey, originally we looked at this many years ago when this first plan came up, that if it could be done, you wouldn't have to build 700 or 800 feet of road. But if it is built, then those people on those specified lots are going to be fronting on one road with their rear on the other. And so we just want to make note of that. And if the town has a way they could work around that, that would be great. Traffic calming is, of course, always something to consider. And I wanted to note that the original MUPD had provisions, and this I think is outside of what these guys are doing because it's been sold, but you do have provisions that were approved in that original MUPD for the bus stop and parking at Lowe's, where I know Chatham Transit works out of now. Just want to make sure that that's preserved if we're going to get into revising this, or there's going to be other things, because they agreed many years ago to provide those parking spaces to the town or to let them be available. And that's why people park there in the morning, and that's why that stop is over there on the north side of the property near the, near the Taco Bell. Excuse me? Okay. Thank you very much. Candace, I'm here.
All right. Very good then. Yeah. Were there suggestions with respect to staff comments on this?
Considering the number of comments that we had, I think we need to take another month with this further. There's other things that I'm seeing, for instance, and Mark, if you could speak to this, section F, or street F or street D, one of these is supposed to come down and connect with Windover, as we discussed.
Correct. So the minor thoroughfare is on the, can you bring up the master map again? It sort of shows the development plan.
Mainly curious which road.
Yeah.
If it's street F, that's basically saying the town of Pittsboro, that road's gonna go right through what could be an old dump of ours. I don't think we should be building roads on old dumps. That's gonna cause some serious problems and cost. If it's street F, D.
It's actually
street here.
or by any chance.
Oh, this is here.
Pointer to our budget next year.
So that pretty much mimics your transportation plan right there.
Then the issue is you have a thoroughfare going right through the middle of what would be open space. And you're splitting what would be a park right in half.
Yeah.
Potentially. Well, no, you'd split it in half, but.
We don't have any issue. I mean, we'll have you talk with Randy. We can move it slightly to the east if you want. We were planning to give you some more open space, but I mean, there's limitations in roadway geometry in terms of vertical and horizontal, but where would you want it? I mean, your transportation plan, basically, the alignment we provided is very close to the what we're showing there. I realize those are just sort of lines on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
But if you prefer for us to move it slightly to the east or to the north, which would be to the right, we're happy to do that.
Yeah, I'm not a road engineer. I don't know where it should go, but.
I would say that the curvature we have today is about as far to the south or to the left that it can go. And if anything, we would be sliding it slightly to the right. Catching the corner.
Right.
Right, if that's helpful.
Yep. Okay.
All right. I think then we're at a point where we need to have a motion to close the public hearing. Unless there are further questions. Okay.
I don't have a question, but I do agree with what our town manager said about the landfill. That's really of concern to me, because really building anything on a landfill, I would not like to see that. Even, I wouldn't like to see it as open space. I wouldn't like to see anything built on that, because I don't know what's there. You could be disturbing something which is hazardous. I don't know, but I do know it was a landfill back there, the city. Let me show it to you.
You thought it could be a bird watching park.
Yes, we could have that.
I don't know about road going.
I can tell you, there are all kinds of adaptive uses for landfills. And certainly you can put a road on it. It's like going over a gas line. You would lift it, right? You would build it slightly up. I mean, there are recreational facilities built all over the country on landfills. And so I'm not suggesting you do that, but what I'm trying to tell you is you can physically get a road across that. If it's important for you to have that minor thoroughfare in that location, then you can get that road across there, and you can have a very passive use on that town park site itself.
If it's a question of engineering, I mean, I'm open to having staff look at the question and look at the engineering necessary, but I share these concerns about potential implications on cost for maintenance over the long term, as well as something that may be in that landfill that we don't want to display.
Sure. Originally, we didn't have that connection. That was a change that was asked of us to make, I guess, back in September. We originally had the road coming in off the hill, turning on the low drives and trying to find the as you can see further down in the middle of the drawing, we're stubbing over there. Now it's not a straight route, but I'm not sure how you can essentially make it a straight route there, given the terrain and some of the other natural features that we're now avoiding out there.
I appreciate this.
It's sort of You have connectivity as you move east by us making the stub street.
I think
That's sort of in the middle of the project there on the very bottom of the page. And we're certainly open to being more flexible if that particular minor thoroughfare is determined to be not warranted.
Well, it's apparent to me that we've got some work to do. And so let me ask the board if we can have a motion to go out of public hearing at this.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Bonitz.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Vose. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries unanimously. And I expect that this is one of those situations where we need a motion for a definitive date and time for it to be rescheduled. Is that correct?
I think that would be up to the board on what you want to do. So if you want to pick a time, you just say motion to move, rediscuss this at this next time, or you can table it and that gives us some flexibility, or you all some flexibility.
Flexibility is good. I'll make a motion to table this item.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Shipp.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Vose. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the motion carries unanimously. And so that's the motion to table that will give us the opportunity to have staff input. And there goes my gashness. So I think we have one more motion for, I think we have one more public hearing now. Does the board wish to approach that? Yes? Yes. Okay, then I'll need a motion to go into public hearing with respect to the annexation of 45 White's Way by Chatham Park investors. So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mayor Pro-Tem Baldwin, seconded by Commissioner Vose. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries unanimously to go into public hearing. Staff is going to present to us the proposal.
Yes, good evening. Yes, we're here to talk about a voluntary contiguous annexation petition for a really large number of parcels. As a matter of fact, to give you, well, up here on the screen in purple, this is the entire area. It's 1,455.66 acres. It's a lot. There's an actual chart on the next page. Let me go to the chart for just a second. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. So there's an entire list of the particular parcels involved. This is a voluntary annexation. There's a meets and bounds description in your packet, which is quite long. It's attachment number 3. Also included in the packet are 2 plats that show the extent of the project, which I'm sure you all saw there further on in. Probably the piece that I'm the most happy with, if Colby could put it up on the screen for me, is this map right here, which is, I'm sorry, it's pretty far in. This one's just for illustration purposes, not those. Keep going. These are really large. Yes, if we could, okay, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to sort of decipher this map for you all. In this particular map, the town of Pittsboro's corporate limits are shown in green. Okay, that is the part that is currently in the town limits. The part that is yellow is a future area to be annexed. It's not included in this annexation. And the proposed area to be annexed is shown in blue. So while I realize that more technically speaking, the annexation area is described beautifully in that meets and bounds description and in those 2 plats for folks who tend to need a picture to give you a clearer idea. This is what 1,455 acres of land looks like. It's a lot. So it is a voluntary contiguous annexation. There was a investigation of sufficiency that was completed on the 12th of October. And at this point, we're here to
hopefully annex this into the corporate limits of the town.
I will note for the public record that there is no one signed up to speak either against or was anyone from the Chatham Park interested in speaking on this matter? All right. And I'm sorry, I was working off of an old version of the agenda tonight. And so this is the public hearing for PB 23 483, a annexation for Chatham Park.
It's the North Village area.
Right. And so has staff given comments?
My comment is I'm very excited.
Okay. And are there questions for staff? There being no questions, and there's no one wishing to speak on behalf of the project, either yay or nay, then I would suggest that perhaps Chair should entertain a motion to go out of public hearing.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Vose.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Shipp. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries to come out of public hearing. And at this point, the board does it wish to address approval or denial of this proposal.
Make a motion to approve the annexations.
Motion by Commissioner Shipp to approve the annexation. Seconded by Commissioner Vose. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. We now have the opportunity to address new business. We are going to have two items brought forward from 11 and 12, brought forward. Is that old or new business?
From the consent agenda.
Pardon?
The consent agenda, and so those would be considered new business.
New business. Okay. So the first matter under new business is the ABC board applications. And so Jonathan and or Carrie will be working with the board on that. Yes.
So we just need to appoint someone to replace Mr. Hugh Harrington. His term expires December 31st. Mr. Harrington is currently the chairperson for the ABC board. So you would also need to appoint a chairperson. For general statute, the appointing board also appoints the chairperson of that board. But to be clear, it doesn't have to be the same person.
Effective 1st of January.
Thank you, Paul.
Effective January 1.
2024. That's for a 3-year term.
Is there a residency requirement for the ABC board?
I don't think so.
None.
Don't think so.
Good character and judgment and all those kinds of good things.
Okay.
The appointing authority shall appoint members of a local board on the basis of the appointee's interest in public affairs, good judgment, knowledge, ability, and good moral character.
It's a high bar.
Then it's the full.
Yeah.
High bar. So among the applications, we are looking for one person to apply for the 3-year term, and then a separate person for the chair.
Well, the chair could be the new person you appoint or the 2 existing people that are on that board. Mr. C.P. Stewart and
Jamie Fioca.
yes, Jamie Fioca.
What's the pleasure of the board?
So I think we have an opportunity here too, to do a little bit of more of alignment with town and prepare for some future plans as well. So I'd also like to nominate Jonathan Franklin to serve in the spot on the ABC board.
Second. Motion by Commissioner Shipp, second by Commissioner Farrell. And I'm assuming that this is with interest in good moral character and all.
Discussion?
Yes,
Should we have discussion?
Oh, let's have discussion.
And if not, remember, y'all hired, so.
Is there discussion?
Yes, I mean, and I'll have some, I do appreciate the applicants that we did have, and I would like to get to them. Particularly, a business owner in town, and resident in town. But I think we should move towards a larger board in the future, and have more opportunity for that. And I think Mr. Frank will help us align some of the town growth with the ABC growth in the meantime.
All right. So, hearing that explanation, then is there, let us bring the matter on for
Further question.
Okay.
For our manager or Commissioner Shipp, what would be the process by which we broaden the board, expand the board?
We would put in a request to the state ABC board to expand that from 3 to 5. And I think that is from the appointing board as well.
Does not require legislative action at the state general assembly.
Not my understanding.
Yes, I think it just to repeat in the microphone, but like I think it's a Board of Commissioners request to the state ABC board for that meeting.
Because obviously a board of 5 is going to have, better opportunity to have different viewpoints, different experiences, and continuity long term.
Yeah.
Rather than a 3-person board.
Less opportunity for quorum.
Correct.
I'd like to propose a friendly amendment then, that we also empower staff to write that letter while we're making this motion.
That's okay with me. Yeah.
Okay. So we go ahead and take action for expanding from 3 to 5, as well as appointing Jonathan Franklin.
So I'll change to hold on. So let's do this and then we can get the motion. So,
all right.
Motion to appoint Jonathan Franklin to the open spot effective January 1st.
those in favor, please those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries unanimously.
Then one more before we get to that, I think a motion to appoint Jamie Fiocco as the chair of the ABC board effective January 1st.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Shipp, seconded by Mayor Pro-Tem Baldwin. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries unanimously. One more?
Now, was there any more input from staff?
I was going to say, we can do our research, come back to you with the letter already written, so then you can approve that.
Okay.
It'll take us a little bit to put it together and get it submitted. So that way we can get it submitted by first of the year, no problem.
So good.
Very good. All right. So that has the ABC board business taken care of then. We're bringing forward number 11 and number 12 from the consent agenda as the next 2 items. And Mayor Pro Tem Baldwin, since it was you that made the motion to pull these from the consent agenda, did you want to address those?
Yes, I can. Actually, I don't have a problem with the preliminary plat information. I just want the public just to hear a little about those 2. That would be fine. Thank you.
Okay, so the first one is section 6.2 phase 1B. Chatham Park Investors is requesting to subdivide 12.45 acres into 44 single-family detached lots and 16 townhome lots. Property is located east of Chatham Parkway and north of Highway 64 bypass. Property is zoned planned development district and is currently undeveloped. So 6.2 Phase 1A was approved back in 2021. Comparing the two, there has been a few minor changes based on the small area plan amendment that was recently approved. So looking at Village Center Way, the original plat from 2021 showed a cycle track, and that has been changed to a multi-use path. This has to do with Eubanks and Charlie Brooks Extension being redesigned. So that is reflected in the amended small area plan, which again now shows there to be a multi-use path instead of a cycle track. The applicant has submitted the preliminary plat, which is in your packets. The subdivision will include sidewalks on both sides of the street per the transit element, street trees on both sides of the street per the landscaping element. There will also be curb and gutter. And the multi-use path will be 10 feet wide. Parking standards are met for single family detached, which is 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit. And for townhomes, it's 2 per dwelling units plus 0.25 per unit for guest parking. Parkland, so what's required is 125th per acre times 163, which is the total units in Phase 1 and Phase B. That's how it was submitted, was a combination of both. So required is 6.52 acres. And what is provided on site is 3.99 acres. The rest will be off site. Any sort of public parkland would have to be approved by the town board, but the applicant is in discussion with staff, mainly Parks and Rec staff, on where the parkland will possibly go, North Village and a combination of South Village potentially as well. So the total amount of open space for all of Chatham Park required is 1,320 acres. That's based on the combination of residential dwelling units at a proposal of 22,000 dwelling units total. And 1,100 non-residential square feet, which is a requirement of a total of 220 acres. So there's also a requirement of 667 acres of parkland that could be public or private. For the parkland, we have the excuse me. Space. Oh, excuse me, for the open space, it's 100, 1/100th of an acres required. So that would be 6.52 acres. The applicant is proposing 3.8 acres on site, and the rest will be provided off site. Regarding the tree coverage planning area, there's a total of 6.6% of tree coverage area proposed out of the whole village center. So that's approximately 13.5 acres. And the entire tree coverage planning area requires a total of 10%. So looking at the standards in the UDO, the applicable standards of the UDO, the small area plan, the elements, the plans have been reviewed in accordance with all this, including applicable standards for public infrastructure, utilities, public safety, and stormwater. So the planning board met on October 16th, recommended approval 6-0.
I would recommend approval of the preliminary plat. They meet all the standards that are required. And staff, would like to answer any questions you may have. The applicants are here as well. If you have any questions for them also.
And this is just for 6.2.
6.2 Phase 1B. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Are there questions for Teresa Thompson? Regarding this, which is number 11 on the previously on the consent agenda.
No questions, but thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. There a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mayor Pro-Tem Baldwin.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Farrell. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And as to plat section 7.1, lot 10.
Yes, ma'am. Trying to bring that up. Okay. Alrighty, so Chatham Park Investors is requesting to subdivide 14.26 acres into 102 townhome lots. This is section 7.1, lot 10. Property is located northeast of Freedom Parkway and Grant Drive. The preliminary plat is included in your packets tonight. There's a proposal of sidewalks and street trees on both sides, including curb and gutter. The parkland requirement is 1/25 of an acre times 102, which is a requirement of 4.08 acres. They're providing 1.17 acres on site. The rest will be approved off-site. And there's a requirement of 1/100th of an acre for open space. So 2.11 acres is being provided, and there's a requirement of 1.02 acres, so they exceed that. For the tree coverage planting area, 3.3% is proposed for the tree coverage area. For the total tree coverage planting area, 10% is required, so they do have to meet that overall standard. Which is approximately 14.26 acres. The preliminary plat was reviewed by the planning board on October 16th. And they recommended approval 6-0. Again, these plans have been reviewed in accordance with the small area plan elements and UDO as applicable, including public infrastructure, utilities, public safety, and stormwater. So therefore, staff recommends a motion to consider approving the preliminary plat for section 7.1, lot 10. And please let me know if you have any questions.
Are there questions of Teresa Thompson? If not, is there a motion to approve? Lot 10, 7.1.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Vose, seconded by Commissioner Shipp. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is for information only. The Boys and Girls Club update is within your package and for your approval.
Just for information.
Just for information. Health insurance requirement, which is cost estimate, which is included in your package. I think that as time goes on, there will be additional inquiry about which board members might be interested in that medical coverage. Financial statement for September is also included in your package. I believe at this time, it would be appropriate to go into closed session.
What?
pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-31811A3 to consult with the town attorney. Is it,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
is there a motion to go into closed session?
I just had a request, but yes,
Okay. Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Baldwin.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Vose. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And we will now adjourn to our separate quarters
Session.
for closed session pursuant to that general statute. And resuming our agenda, we have a discussion of the Asheboro permit. And that was a matter continued from the October 23rd meeting. I think we've been briefed on the idea that there have been no additional disclosures with respect to that permit, and the administrative law judge has not ruled. So it would be appropriate to make a motion to table the matter until there have been advances.
Yeah, I'll make that motion to table the matter indefinitely, pending further updates from staff. That said, I will note, to elaborate, Mayor Perry, I think that we can share as much of what was disclosed in closed session, is that we have not achieved the necessary milestones that we laid out as a board for staff to take action, in terms of staff and our attorney to take action. So we will continue to wait and hope.
Is there a second to Mr. Bonnett's motion?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Vose. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Table the matter indefinitely until staff brings it back before us. Is there anything else that needs to come before the board other than an announcement, other than an adjournment?
The one thing, since we found out about the ABC board, we could make that motion now, and then we could advertise for that we're gonna have 2 additional spaces. Totally up to y'all, or we can wait till December. It would give us an additional month to go out and try to find folks who are interested.
Are the 2 applicants that we already have disqualified?
That's totally up to y'all. Just
I think we should advertise for multiple. And include the people that have already.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to increase the size of the ABC board from 3 to 5.
Is there a second?
Second.
The 2 new members would be appointed for 3-year terms.
Motion by Commissioner Shipp, seconded by Commissioner Bonitz. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now can we adjourn?
May I deliver 2 concerns? One is actually not a concern, but an appreciation. The leaf vacuum, huge appreciation for that decision.
Yes.
It is just very obvious that that is racking up labor savings. And I'm just thrilled to see it. It's probably even exceeding staff's expectations, I would imagine, because I counted and it probably took 60 seconds to cover the pile that previously took about 5 to 10 minutes in front of my own house. Huge appreciation all the way around. Whoever deserves it, please shower them with praise. And this is more of a concern. I think given what we saw on November 8th with Hillsborough Street, the backups, the traffic jam caused by the utility work there. Maybe y'all mercifully dodged that, but I had 2 people reach out to me that they had actually missed doctor's appointments because of that delay. And so I'm wondering if this is kind of a harbinger of what is yet to come, more so in much greater magnitude with the R5724 project, the NCDOT widening of Hillsborough Street. And I just want to pose the question, what can we do to achieve better coordination and notification with various contractors on that constrained 2-lane highway?
do you know what the utility work was?
No clue.
Specifically?
But they completely shut down 1 lane.
I believe that there's been a couple of activities recently. I've gotten involved in some of that. There's been Dominion Energy doing some work that created one of those delays.
Probably gas.
Then more recently, there's been survey work for the designing the DOT project that kind of unexpectedly caused delays. So have asked our DOT partners to put us in the loop because we're right now out of the loop. The utility gets their approvals from DOT, and a lot of instances it's blanket approvals where they just, kind of honestly show up. So we have reached out to our contacts with DOT to ask for the courtesy of being included in the notification. So that is one thing that, we have done recently.
Thank you. And I know there was firewood too, because they were trimming the trees along, they just dropped all the branches on the sidewalk and left as they were pulling fiber out. So they went down like all in front of my house and everything, and just trees just dropped on the sidewalk, left, and they put it in the street. So in the last week, there's been 5 gas survey work that all was popped.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
I'd like to echo what Commissioner Bonitz said about the leaf truck. And I would like some degree of assurance that even after I'm no longer Madam Mayor, I want you to know that they got so quickly. I mean, they just had barely hit the curb when
I love it.
When that truck came by and zooped them up. And I can only take solace in the idea that if they don't come and get my leaves with that kind of rapidity, that I'll take them down to your house.
Sure, it's our favorite too. They're in my front yard, in my backyard.
The backyard.
Yeah.
And we'll take them to Paul's.
But
there's communication, has it gone out with respect to making sure that people don't put big sticks in the leaves? Because I've noticed that if you have big sticks, they can't suck those up, right?
So that information is on the website about how people should put out leaves.
Okay.
And always make sure that that's.
Okay.
But, Colby, since you spoke up, I wonder if maybe this is an opportunity for us to brag a little bit. We could write an article about what savings that this thing is giving us. It's really remarkable. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, maybe you can crowbar them into reporting on something. But yeah, Kent, thank you so much for your attention to that and for urging DOT for greater coordination. I imagine that once that project gets started in earnest, coordination with the postmaster is also going to be really important because there'd be mailboxes moved. That's a specific request that I've had from some of those folks there is please make sure that we don't lose our mail service. Gotcha.
I do have one question. Now, since that truck picks up all the leaves, what do we do about those trees and things that we cut from our houses and hedges, large hedges and all of that?
So pile it up and then call town hall and we will come pick it up.
Okay, sounds good.
Request.
Yep, and there will be a request in next year's budget for a rear loading garbage truck. So that way we can use that to pick up that type of debris because that'll make it a lot quicker for that item too. So, and then we can also use that for events and all kind of other things.
Okay.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So